Jó reggelt kívánunk! Üdvözlünk mindenkit a Viber for Business exkluzív online média eseményén. Ahogyan azt a meghívóban is jeleztük, a mai nap során ismertetjük, hogy mit kínál a Viber a márkáknak Magyarországon, milyen eredményekkel zárták a tavalyi évet, illetve hogyan látják a márka és a felhasználó interakciójának jövőjét. Végül pedig, hogy a Business Inbox és a Commercial Account hogyan erősíti a Viber szuperapp státuszát 2023-ban. Az esemény végén lehetőség lesz mindenkinek feltenni a kérdéseit, de akár a chatben is tudtak írni. Illetve egy sajtóközleményben összegezzük majd a legfontosabb bejelentéseket. Át is adnám a szót Krisztina Konstandekének, a Viber bevételi igazgatójának. Krisztina, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Annika. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be almost there with you today. It's unfortunate that due to everything that has been happening over the past couple of years with COVID, we were not able to meet in person again. Hopefully that will be rectified soon. But in the meantime, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to our beginning of a year full of new launches, and to present to you directly what we have planned for beginning of 2023. Everything that we will be discussing today, if we want to go to the next slide, is coming from the trends that we have seen on the markets. Hungary being one of our most important markets in Central Eastern Europe, we try to understand as best as we can the trends, like I was saying, in mobile messaging and mobile communications in general, and make sure that through the launches that we have, we give our users exactly what they need. So if we look at what is going on today, it's obvious that everyone does almost everything from their phone. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. 48% of the businesses in Hungary use messaging apps and social networks, while 95% of the users in Hungary access social media and messaging via smartphones. Ultimately, while we knew that mobiles have largely replaced the use of desktop, what we're seeing now more and more is a business use that goes beyond the personal usage, which is extremely encouraging for us as a messaging app, because it means that we can add a new suite of functionalities to the ones that we already offer that are more in the private space. I wanted to show you a quick video just to explain a little bit more our positioning and how we're imagining the platform to look like in order to allow businesses to use the most effective and efficient tools for communicating with our customers. So, well, if we consider Viber to be more than just a personal messaging apps, like you have seen, we have a number of channels and a number of opportunities that we offer businesses that allows them to ultimately reach the consumers at every step at the marketing funnel. We have ads, we have stickers, we have chatbots, we have business messaging. All of these are tools that used separately, of course, can enhance the marketing goals, but used together give businesses a 360 approach, if I can call it like that, that allows them to interact with the customer at every step of a customer journey. And the numbers speak for themselves. These are stats showing the progress from 2022 versus 2021, where the numbers of deliver messages, both promotional and transactionals, have increased so much that I'm not even going to read the numbers for you because you can see them very well. Not to mention the numbers of messages exchanged in the chatbots. The two figures that we want to focus on from this slide are the increase in transactional business messages and the increase in messages exchanged in the chatbots. Why is that? Because it means that apart from using Viber as a marketing and promotional channel, businesses are now using Viber more and more in order to transact or to connect with existing customers in order to fulfill their after-sale or rather post-sales needs. And this is extremely important because, of course, we're going into a whole new territory away from advertising and much more into the utility space, into adding relevance to the customer experience in Viber. If we are to go to the next slide, you'll see that our ambition for quite some time, but the steps are now clearly shown in 2023, is to become a super app. Of course, a super app is a concept that ultimately can mean a lot of things. It's enough that we look at countries in Asia where apps like WeChat and Line are the traditional super apps, and they perform a lot of function apart from just private messaging. And while the conditions in these countries remain very, very specific for the success of WeChat and Line to be possible, it is true that the trend that is most interesting for us in terms of usage of a super app is the fact that in addition to the main function of the app, which is one-to-one private messaging, we want to offer users access to a range of features that will make their daily life easier and more convenient. And that makes total sense when we're looking at the stats, where ultimately almost 80% of the users spend their time in free apps, out of which more than half of their time is spent in one app, out of which this app in 2 out of 3 cases tends to be a messaging app. So if we are to go to the next slide, you'll know that you will see that as part of our global app strategy, the updates that we are presenting today is the introduction of a business chat inbox, which is a brand new solution launched worldwide just about 10 days ago, together with a commercial account that is ultimately a single meta business entity, allowing users to search and discover all businesses' info and channels of communication that they have chosen to put in Viber. That sounds very complicated, but is in fact very easy. So if we are to go to the next slide, I will first start by presenting the business inbox. The business inbox is a dedicated folder that sits on the main chat screen, but that will compile all the business messages that the user are receiving. Meaning that from now on, if you are receiving messages from a business, instead of these mixing with your private messaging, they will have a dedicated space in the app that they will go to, that will make it easier for you as a user to control the in-app experience, of course. It will store all the important updates from the businesses that you interact with in one single place. And ultimately, what it adds, first and foremost, is the fact that it is only messages from verified brands that are going into the business inbox, which means that it enhances the security for both the users and the brands. Because if a business message, or rather a message that poses as a business message, doesn't go into the business inbox, it is because it's not a verified message. All the businesses that are going into the business inbox are businesses that have been verified by our teams, which means, like I was saying, extra security for the enterprises and the users. When it comes to the benefit for the brands, of course, interacting with the users, increasing the engagement, and driving the conversions are amongst the most important ones, mainly because they are no longer interfering with the private usage of Viber. So right now, reaching users where they are ready to communicate with the brands is a lot more easier because there is this dedicated space. And last but not least, it improves the customer experience and brand loyalty because the users have actually control over which messages or which companies they pin to the top, which companies they choose to leave in the business inbox versus which ones they might prefer to take out. So we're giving the users more flexibility and more freedom, which in turn it translates into a higher brand recognition and awareness for the enterprises. If we are to go to the next slide, of course, when you launch such an important update, we couldn't have done this without educating the users as well. So once the business inbox has been launched, we have also added a tooltip in the chat screen to explain the feature. We have added a pop-up message that is displayed for the first time when the user enters business inbox after updating the app, of course, in order to explain what this folder is and what it does. Of course, we have promoted the new feature on Viber social media pages in order to allow users to access additional information on the feature should they want to. And last but not least, we have released in-app campaigns with messages to all users in Hungary about the business inbox. Based on the results and based on the KPIs that we're seeing from these campaigns, we will launch additional campaigns down the line in order to remind users of the best practices when it comes to the business inbox. If we are to go to the next slide, this is what I wanted to share with you as well. Before launching the feature, we actually conducted a survey in Hungary in order to understand how the users would be perceiving such a feature. Needless to say, almost 72% of the users viewed the business inbox favorably and found it convenient, mainly because, like I was telling you, it allows them to better organize their private communications versus their business communications. And almost 60% of users said that they would read the business messages the same day or immediately after receipt in the business inbox. A stat that is not in the presentation, but this is from our internal dashboards. I can tell you that normally business messages are read within 3 minutes of arriving on the user's phone. So that's really an incredible conversion rate, if I'm allowed to call it like that, because it means that the users are really engaging with this feature. Now, about the commercial account, I was telling you that it's a meta business entity. Of course, today, or rather up until January, we already had a business info page, which was a very basic static page, which was allowing businesses to provide the minimum information about themselves, a short description, a logo, an address, and maybe an URL or opening hours. Well, the commercial account is ultimately an enhanced business info page with two main differences, or rather three main differences. First of all, right now, or up until January, the business info page wasn't searchable and wasn't discoverable. So the power was with a business that would connect with a customer. Right now, the commercial account is searchable and discoverable, meaning that the users can proactively go and search for businesses that they want to connect with rather than waiting to be contacted by a business. These are the first two major differences. The third main difference is that the commercial account is ultimately a dynamic entity, meaning that not only would they list, of course, the logo, the description of the business, opening hours, website, so on and so forth, but also all the channels that the businesses are using in Viber. So imagine that you have a bank that has business messages in Viber, but also has a chatbot. So you can find both entities in the commercial account so that you choose as a user which one you want to interact with. Or a retailer, for example, that can have business messages because they are sending confirmation of deliveries or invoices or receipts. They can have a bot as well, and they can have down the line a product catalog. So the commercial account is a evolving entity where we will be adding more and more features in order to really replicate a mini app experience inside Viber. So business will be able to add product catalogs, like I was saying, call buttons, maybe calendar for schedules appointments. So we're really aiming to give our users access to a range of features, like I was telling you before, that will ultimately make their daily life easier and more convenient. And if we are to go to the next slide, this is to summarize the idea of a super app. I started by telling you that super app is such a big concept, and that at the end of the day, it can mean so many things. And yes, there are super apps out there in very specific part of the world where the usage and the cultures are very different. We are not aiming to copy any of them. Our understanding of a super app is offering a one-stop shop for all brand user interactions, where ultimately users will feel helped in their daily life with features that are both useful and relevant, and businesses will feel encouraged to conduct their interactions in Viber in such a way that is meeting in the most efficient way their business goals. And that's it from us for today. I'm sure you have questions, so I will be very happy to answer them. There is a question in the app. Do you want me to read it out? Okay, Aniko, you do the honors then.
Yes, we are collecting the questions. I hope you can see the first one, but if you're not, I can read it for you. Can you see, Christina, the question in the chat, or may I?
I can. Can everybody else see it? So we don't have to read it.
All right, all right.
Okay, so of course, I mean, Meta is the big company, and there are areas in which we are competing. Ultimately, you can say the same thing about any other messaging app. It's not an either-or situation. users can and will use several channels. We continue on our path and with our strategy of enhancing the features that we offer to both businesses and users in order to offer, like I was saying, or to ensure that we stay relevant and we stay useful to both users and businesses. So the things that we have released, or rather the launches that we are preparing today, are in themselves a response, if you want to call them like that, although even if Meta weren't preparing things, this would have still been our strategy, because we believe, based on what we have seen and what we have received as feedback from our users, that this is the right path and this is what they are looking for in Viber. So I'm hoping that this is answering your question. South Africa is a different situation because there is not a market where Viber is actively focusing, at least not in terms of business communication. So we will continue to maintain all the one-to-one private messaging options, but we don't have a B2B focus as such in South Africa. Okay.
We have another question in written form, but please, if everyone has a question, just raise your hand and feel free to ask, not just in written form, but in here as well.
Okay. So there is a question. Sorry. There is a question in Hungarian, Aniko, that DS has sent. If you can help translate it, and then we'll go down the line to the others.
Of course. I am just say it. The question, what we got in written form, is about the costs that can be expected if, for example, a media outlet move its push feed to Viber. For example, we used Telegram for push feed function, which is free of charge. How would this be the case of Viber?
In the case of Viber, it's already the same thing. The outbound messages are free up to a certain threshold for commercial entities. In the case of media outlets, like all the other, let's say, relevant or opted-in type of communications, that it is alert, that is news, that is horoscope, that is anything that the user has chosen to receive, that is free as well. So that's not an issue. But I think that DS is asking if we have seen his question, and I've seen a question, but it's in Hungarian. So it's the first question that arrived. If you can please scroll up and translate it. Daniel.
Until that, we got another question in the chat. Are you considering Viber motorsport support, like the way Google logos and brands appear on McLaren Formula One cars?
You mean Viber to promote themselves in motorsports? Look, we can imagine a lot of marketing activities. It really depends. Obviously, Rakuten had a partnership with Salon last year. Do have Hungarian football clubs that are also having activity in Viber. So we do have joint marketing activities. If it makes sense, and like I said, if it's relevant for our audience, it's something that we want to discuss with the partners that come to us. Advertising for the sake of advertising, in this sense, is not what we're looking for. We really want to be able to engage with users and bring them something that has additional value to what they already have. I hope this answers your question. Okay, so
Not
Ambras
just
has a...
feel free to
Sorry.
complete it. And we got the questions what we got earlier, and you can see it in the chat. The first question is about your financial results. You told us about it, but if you want to complete it, please share it with the guest, Christina.
Of course. So 2022 was not the easiest year, like we know, for everybody, mainly due to the political situation and to what happened in our part of the world, in Central Eastern Europe. However, what we have seen is that despite the political situation, the markets around and the rest of Central Eastern Europe has continued to grow and has performed very strongly, mainly strengthening or rather continuing the trends that they already started in COVID. Hungary alone, for example, showed an over 300% increase in revenue year on year from business messages due to the fact that businesses had already started using Viber during the pandemic. And they continue to do so after the pandemic. Also, looking at what is going on in the telco world and the increasing price of SMS, I think it's a trend that makes sense because at the end of the day, while we are not a free solution when it comes to businesses, we are a much more cost-effective solution, and we can actually show results for the investment that the businesses make when they work with Viber. So could have been better, but it was much better than what we have expected, given the international situation, and especially in markets like Hungary.
We have the third question regarding Ukrainian war. Have you noticed an upturn in usage in relation to the Ukrainian war between Hungary and the Ukraine, perhaps?
Yes, people have always communicated in between countries, of course, but with part of the Ukrainian population moving abroad, we have seen an increase in messages all around the region, more or less. So clearly, the population that has left the country is still continuing to keep in touch with those that are in the country, and that has led to an increase in traffic in between Hungary and Ukraine, just like in between the neighboring countries and Ukraine.
Oh, and another question. Thank you for being so active. Is there any official data about how many fake accounts or scammer bots are on Viber?
There is no official data, mainly because it is our mission to constantly fight any type of fake accounts or scammer bots. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to introduce the business inbox, to ensure that now users have even more visibility into what can potentially be a fake type of messages versus a validated one. Obviously, all the verified messages had the blue tick even before they had the verified sign, but now by putting them together in a folder, it's an extra security, because like I said, these businesses are manually registered by us. We are constantly encouraging users to report any abnormal activity. We have invested, and we continue to invest heavily into not only people and teams and tools that help us look at any potential spam or fake activity. Like everyone knows, ultimately spam is a never-ending story, but it's absolutely one of the most important activities that we have, and the main focus for our technical teams in order to control this to the maximum.
Okay, Thank you so much. As the second part of the question, how can you have example now with the events now in Turkey?
We have obviously facilitated calls. We have the free calls that go through Viber to Viber calls. We are launching some plans that will facilitate the lower or free calls to Turkey non-Viber users. And then there are several initiatives that are being prepared with the business development or rather with the growth teams, with humanitarian associations, and they will be launched soon. Unfortunately, given that nobody can predict catastrophes like this, because there is no other word for it. It's not like we were waiting around hoping to do something for Turkey. But now the teams are working extra time, overtime, in order to ensure that help is being provided in the way that we can with our means. And I see there is another question on top, if we see any differences between the usage habits of Hungarian and Western European users. Actually, the Central Eastern European users in general, and obviously that includes Hungary as well, they are a lot more innovative, if I can call it like that, in the way that they are willing to use a messaging app. In Western Europe, the usage is a lot more traditional. It's a lot of still private messaging, despite the fact that, like you or somebody was mentioning before, some of our competitors are offering business channels as well. But we haven't seen such a great usage of that. Whereas the numbers that I showed you for Ukraine in terms of usage of business messaging overall or business communication in Viber are absolutely spectacular. Is a growth that we couldn't be more proud of. Also, the launch of Viber Pay in Greece and the appetite that we have seen from the Greek users leads us to believe that when the same product is going to be launched in the rest of Central Eastern Europe, it will be equally successful. So yes, in a nutshell, Hungarian users, together, I think, with Central Eastern European users, they are a lot more willing to test innovation rather than the Western users.
Is there any questions, dear journalists? If not, Christina, would you want to complete the presentation with any further information?
I'm happy to provide additional information if there are questions or help offer additional clarification if something wasn't, if something needed based on what we discussed today. So no, it's entirely up to our guests from the press to let us know how we can help further and how we can offer more information.
All right, then thank you for your participation. As I told you in the beginning of the presentation, we will share it with you a press release with a summary of this event, and have a nice day for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.